Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show. I, of course, am MrWarrenHayes, and this is the NWA Power Recap. NWA edition that occurred on February 25, 2020. Welcome, everyone, to come hear me talk about NWA. Another episode this week, back from a hiatus of last week where we got the Squared Circle premiere, which was fun. Thought it was interesting. It's a cool little half-hour tidbit where you get to discover some new stars. I liked it. I'm excited to see where they're going to go with this moving forward. But as of now, we're back into our usual power programming, which means that I'm back here recording live on patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes because, yes, patrons of the MrWarrenHayes Show at the $5 tier, the Power Pal level, get to join me in live and watch this and enjoy and join in the chat live before I let it out loose into the world onto all your favorite podcast platforms and onto youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes so that everyone can just like sit around and be like, oh, it's Warren Hayes talking about NWA. That's right. So that's it. So if you want to be able to see this before everyone else, get a little early access, jump in live, well, you head on over to patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes and you join the Patreon. You become a patron of the MrWarrenHayes Show. There's 2 tiers. You can check that out. Look at all the goodies you get. And at the Power Pal tier is where you get everything. You get this. You get some random thoughts I also collect. You also get the Thursday night post stream, which I do after the typical edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show called Warren's Off the Clock. And that's just for patrons only. I'm talking about more wrestling stuff because there's always a bunch of stuff happening in the wacky wild world of professional wrestling that I can't just cover within one show. I have to do 2 or at least 1.5. Just have to talk about all sorts of stuff. Look, go check it out. Patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes if you want to jump in and do that. And at the same time, if you would like to, if maybe you're like, you know what, Warren, I really like you, but I'm not sure about this patron stuff. I don't have all that much time, but I would like to show some support. Like, I would like to wear my support to you. I'd like to emblazon my chest with support for you, Warren. Well, it just so happens that I have a t-shirt out there over on tinyurl.com/WarrenShop. This is a fun match, you guys t-shirt. It's my little way to cut reviews on the internet, on Twitter. If you want to have a part of that, well, you head on over to tinyurl.com/WarrenShop. I'd forgotten about it for a second there, but I'm back on top of things. And I want to say hello to Kristen Ashley, who's in the chat right now, here to hear everything about NWA. There we go. All right, let's get to it. Let's start talking about tonight's episode of NWA. I'm going to tell you. Well, no, I'm not going to tell you just yet. I don't want to spoil it. You're going to have to stick around for all my impressions. I'm not giving them away at the top of the show. That's the main event. What are we talking about? We have Dave. The show starts with Dave Marquez welcoming Tim Storm, which is kind of a thing in NWA, right? To start off the episode with Tim Storm, and that's fine. Tim Storm is he's a babyface. The people like him. He talks about very wholesome things. He's a very wholesome babyface. Nothing wrong with that. Tim Storm says that he fought Tom Latimer 2 weeks ago. He said last week, but it was 2 weeks ago. And that's not his fault. That's how things were structured when they were taping the show. It's not on Tim. Or did he say that, or did I just write that? Look, the point is that he didn't wrestle last week because it was the Squared Circle. Anyway, it didn't go as planned, his fight with Tom Latimer, because he lost. And it seems to me that Tim Storm's been saying that a lot. Look, he says, things didn't go quite exactly as I planned. He tries to get into the TV. He tries to win the TV title. Oh, didn't quite work out as I planned. He tries to win in the NWA title off of Nick Aldis. Well, things didn't quite go as I planned. Well, you're going to have to plan better, Tim. Because it seems to me you're just, you're just running through excuses. Plan. It's like I always say, a mistake is a mistake. Mistakes happen, and a mistake is a mistake. A problem is a mistake that you keep doing over and over again. And I'm sort of thinking here, Tim, and I'm saying this out of the bottom of my heart because I think you're a wonderful guy, stand-up dude. Loved the blue tie with the blue hanky combo on your suit tonight. I thought it was extremely classy, very fresh. But I'm telling you, you're going to have to review your plans. Something's not quite clicking. He says he wants to bring some closure with Strictly Business. Then Tom Latimer then comes out and he says Strictly Business is done with him, actually. And Tom Latimer leaves. So then Tim Storm is sort of like hanging around. He's like, oh, okay, so this is the part where the fake Mama Storm comes out, right? This is the part where she comes out, because that's kind of what was happening over the past couple of weeks, and it didn't dawn on me. And maybe it's, I completely put this on the fact that I'm stupid, because we finally get the reveal tonight of who was the fake Mama Storm, and I don't know why I didn't see it, but it's Danny Deals. He's the impersonator, the phony Mama Storm, and I don't know why I didn't see it. It's on me. I'm a dummy. And he comes up to Tim Storm and he says, look, I'm Danny Deals, and I have a deal for you. He says, I have a way. Look, I've been doing all of this because I have a deal for you, Tim. So over the past couple of weeks, Danny Deals has been coming out dressed up as Mama Storm to try and get into a negotiation position with Tim Storm, which confirms to me Danny Deals is the worst businessman alive. He says he's got a deal. The deal goes like this. Backstage right now, he has a man that Tim Storm could partner with. It's a way for him to get gold back around his waist. All he has to do is tag up with this individual, which he did not bring out, who is at this stage right now a mysterious man of mystery. But Tim Storm says that, look, he has no time for Danny Deals because Danny Deals disrespected his mother, and that's a trigger. But what did he say was a hot button? It was a hot button for Tim Storm to go after his mom. You don't go after Mama Storm, so he just wants to wrap his hands around his neck and wring his neck. So never mind about the partnership, says Tim Storm. I don't want to tag with him. I want to fight you. So Danny Deals is like, okay, bro, you want to fight him? Never mind. I gave you a good opportunity to get into a tag team. This is not going to happen. This is what we're going to do. You're going to fight my man. You're going to fight my mystery man. And there's going to be stipulations to this. If he wins, you have to use that stroke that you have in the NWA office that everybody loves Tim Storm so much. You're going to use that stroke to get my boy an NWA contract. Fair. And if Tim Storm wins, or if Danny Deals' guy loses, Tim Storm gets 5 minutes to do what he wants to Danny Deals. And Tim Storm sort of goes, sure, whatever, I just want to fight you kind of thing. And it turns out the mystery man is Jax Dane, former NWA champion, who comes out and goes nose to nose, toe to toe instantly with Tim Storm. Tim Storm actually took the title from a 14-month reign for Jax Dane. Dane, he's been around the block. He's a former Ring of Honor guy as well. He was in a tag. He was in a tag tournament, in a tag team, the Iron Gods, right, with Rob Conway. And it seems to me they did the New Japan World Tag League a year. I want to say 2013. That sounds about right. And he was in Ring of Honor. He was in Impact as well. And he is a former NWA Heavyweight Championship. Now here, I like this angle, by the way. I thought this was fun. I'm glad they're done with the Mama Storm nonsense, because I don't think it was cringe. Just gonna call it out as it was. It was cringe. I liked how this angle was handled. I think it's fun. I think it's good that NWA is going back to get one of its former heavyweight champions. That's also good. Now the thing that I'm questioning myself about, you're a former NWA heavyweight champion, and you cannot secure a contract with the company that you represented by being world champion at some point in your career. Jax Dane had to go to Danny Deals of all goddamn people to ask him for, hey, can you help me get back into the NWA? And Danny Deals, instead of going to sit down and negotiate with the NWA people, goes to Tim Storm and is like, no, listen, I've concocted this plan where you will fight Tim Storm and I will get him to agree that if he loses, you get a contract. I mean, only in pro wrestling, right? But no, it's just weird that your former heavyweight champion would have difficulty getting a contract back in the company unless you're caught being racist on tape. But then again, the company you once worked for could eventually forgive you as well. No, and I'm not talking about Jax Dane. He was never racist on tape, as far as I know. Anywho, it was a fun angle to start off the show. Next, we have Matt Cross, who cuts a quick but very impassioned promo. I like Matt Cross. I just like him. There's something very essential, just like very raw about him that I dig, and he's so good in the ring. He puts over the NWA, and he says, here in the NWA, there's one word we're not afraid of. That word is wrestling. So we get the triple threat match. It's not for the TV title because Ricky Starks is involved, and it's not for the TV title, but NWA television champion Ricky Starks versus Matt Cross versus the outrageous Zicky Dice. Starks and Dice go at it on the outside for a while. They brawl outside the ring while Cross is just in the ring waiting around. He's like, you guys just beat yourselves up on it. I'll just wait here being all fresh. Which I like, because that if this was WWE, he'd be jumping instantly out to the outside because he's a babyface, jumping to the outside to sort of to be like, hey, let's do this. Let's I'm coming into the fight here. Whereas really, babyface or not, honestly, the smart strategy is to let the two other dudes beat the tar out of each other, and you just wait around and pick up the scraps. And it's not a heel or a babyface move to do. It's just smart. It's strategy, man. But Cross does eventually hit a tope to both guys on the outside. They all get back into the ring. Eventually, the babyfaces double team on Dice. They hit a double back body drop. Matt Cross hits the cross cutter and the shooting star press off the top rope, but Zicky Dice tosses him off of Ricky Starks just as he comes to pin him, tosses Cross to the outside, and Dice gets the pin himself and positions himself for another shot at the NWA Television Championship. By God, what a sneaky sneak that Zicky Dice is. Ee-ba-ba-booey. It was an okay match. It was, one of these short NWA matches. It was fine. Set up the match against Starks again. Good stuff. More good heel work from Zicky Dice. It's fine stuff. We had the return of Mae Valentine's diary vlog thing. You remember that happened? I think it has to be like 3 or 4 episodes ago now. You remember that? And I didn't think it was it. I still don't think it's it, but it's better. It was better than last time. They kept it shorter to begin with. And they changed the lighting, they changed the way it was shot. But they're clearly using this to advance the Sal Ronaldo Royce Isaacs angle, which is fine, you know. And I mean, she's doing the vlogger thing, fine. You know, she's like, I actually, you know, I kind of, it's not, it definitely was an improvement from last time. You know, she said, I want to show you guys some of my beauty tricks, you know, that very, very typical YouTuber beauty community stuff, you know. It's like, I'll show you how to do makeup, give you some of my beauty tricks. And I used some on my good friend, my best friend, Sal. And then you see Sal Ronaldo with pigtails and pink eyeshadow. And I'm like, this is just silly enough. I like this. This is fine. You know, they're clearly a strong budding relationship between the both. Good friendship. It was better. Was it good? I don't know. I don't know, because I don't find May Valentine to be that good a communicator. I think she's okay, but I think it's the kind of gimmick that if you put it in the hands of someone who is much more naturally charismatic, who can express themselves more, and who can sort of play the role of these bloggers, or these vloggers, excuse me. They can play the role of these YouTube vloggers. It would come across much better. It'd come across a lot easier, because they're a typecast at this point, you know. But I mean, that's who she is. They're using her in this way. I don't think it's the best use of her strengths. I think it exposes but as I often say on the main show and wherever I can, you know, if you don't put wrestlers or talents in a position where they have to get out of their comfort zone, where they have to cut promos, they'll never improve. So, like I said, I mean, this was already an improvement from the first May Valentine Diary vlog thing from a couple of weeks ago. I still don't think we're there yet. Baby steps. I mean, sure. I'm definitely not. I'm not demanding that it be taken off the air. It's just like it still has room to grow. Let's put it that way. Next, we have an Aaron Shooter Stevens promo with Joe Golly. My God, Aaron Stevens loves what he does. He really takes great pleasure in it. He, because Galley essentially calls Stevens a coward, right? That's the crux of this promo here. And Stevens defends himself by saying no, right? Well, that's part of his gimmick, where the audience counteracts yes to his no's, and Stevens just revels in it, and you can tell he's not corpsing by any stretch of the imagination, but you can tell he has this satisfaction in just getting the crowd reactions and having some fun with it, having fun with Joe Galley, and Galley's having fun with him too. I liked it. It was a good quick little promo here, where he puts over the fact, you know, that he considers himself to be a fighting champion, that Scott Steiner couldn't take the title off of him, Trevor Murdoch couldn't take the title off of him. We're talking, of course, about the national title, the third degree national championship. And this brings out the question mark, who has a match against Trevor Murdoch. Trevor gets some big offense in early with a trifecta of lariats. But then the question mark goes for the Mongrovian spike. Murdoch dodges. The spike hits the turnbuckle. And boy, that seemed to completely ruin the question mark. It's like, clearly we've discovered some kryptonite here, because he goes for the spike, which is like this, and he hits the turnbuckle, and he's suffering. He's just completely out of it. And it allows Trevor Murdoch to hit the top rope bulldog. And it was not a pretty top rope bulldog. It's not one where you're like, wow, well done. It's more like, hey, okay. I mean, the execution was okay. Technically speaking, it didn't look like it hurt anyone overtly there was no one injured, but just you look at it and you're like, ooh, that was not pretty. But it works for Trevor Murdoch. It's perfect. It was fine. Murdoch hits the Bulldog, gets the win. After the match, Stevens and the question mark go after him. They beat him up. Aaron Stevens gets him down in the corner, covers him, like lays up against him and starts hitting a series of back elbows. Good strikes. Trevor Murdoch was out. Aaron Stevens was reveling in it. Fun angle. Not much of a match. It wasn't a match, really. But still a fun angle. I dug it. Sean Mooney is at the interview position, welcoming Nick Aldis. Sean Mooney, he still could be calling his segment the Mooney Pit, or Show Me the Mooney. And Sean, if you're listening right now, they're yours, buddy. These are my gift to you. And you can go see Dave Lagana or Billy Corgan, William Patrick Corgan, whoever's in charge, and you can tell him, look, I had this great idea from this guy on the internet. We should call my segment the Mooney Pit. And then, Corgan will probably look at you and say, like, okay, well, how much do we owe this gentleman? And Sean Mooney will say, no, he's on record saying that he's given it to us. And then you can all just like hug each other and say, my God, the internet is such a generous place. And I'm okay with creating a beautiful moment between you and the creative direction of your of the company. It's anyway, think about it. It's all yours. Show me the Mooney. It writes itself. Anyway, Nick Aldis comes out after all of that. Aldis comes out and he says that he's we should take a moment to appreciate that I look good here tonight. Looks like I'm going to the Kentucky Derby because I'm the only thoroughbred in the business, which has me wondering, does Nick Aldis, because I know he's not from North America originally, right? He's from the UK. Does Nick Aldis know that the Kentucky Derby is a horse race? Does he know that? Or like, he calls out Marty Scurll because he's going to give Marty Scurll a chance to back out of the deal that they set a couple of weeks ago, and to admit that he being Nick Aldis is the better man. And Scurll is there. He comes out, and Scurll is having none of Nick Aldis's nonsense. He says let's do this right here, right now. Takes off his jacket, takes off his scarf, his watch, his jewelry, his sunglasses, and he goes into the ring with his umbrella. And he's in the ring for a fight. Nick Aldis is like, are you sure you want to do this? Royce Isaacs comes out. And let me ask you again, Marty, are you sure you want to do this? And Tom Latimer comes out. And I'm going to ask you one more time, Marty, are you sure you want to do this? And then they all sort of approach the ring. It's going to be a 3-on-1 situation until Brody King from Ring of Honor Villain Enterprises runs in to help Marty take out these goofs. And then there's a pull-apart brawl. Fun little segment. They're going to need a few more of these moving into the Crockett Cup, which is going to be real interesting stuff. Eddie Kingston comes out to meet Dave Marquez for an interview as well. Lots of interviews tonight. Very, very talk-heavy show. Dave Marquez asks Eddie Kingston, hey, it's like, what, you took care of the Dawsons, Pope, the bouncers helped you out, what's next for Eddie Kingston? And Eddie Kingston's like, hey, this great journalism, Dave Marquez. Great questions you're asking here. And Marquez goes, 2-time Emmy Award winner, to a big reaction from the crowd. Everyone sort of thought that was funny. And Eddie Kingston's like, yep, keep putting yourself over at my expense, brother. That was a neat little off-the-cuff moment there from both dudes. I liked it. Thought it was good. Kingston is taping his fist. He's ready for a fight. He wants to beat someone up, and he calls Pope out because he has beef with Pope. By the way, as we were leading into this segment tonight, there's the teaser slates between breaks, and he's like, there's these teaser moments where it's like coming up, Nick Aldis calls out Marty Scurll, and coming up, main event, Thunder Rosa versus Melina. And they had coming up, Eddie Kingston wants to fight the Pope. And if that isn't the greatest tease of all time right there, Eddie Kingston wants to fight the Pope, that I'm tuning in for that, but it's not the Pope. It is just plain old Pope, Elijah Burke Pope. Anyway, but Pope does come out, and he calls Kingston trash, and he cuts a great promo. And what's cool about Pope and the way that he delivers his promos and the way that he articulates stuff, he has a very different delivery and a very different style from a lot of people on the card, on the roster, I should say, including Eddie Kingston, who has his own very, very visceral, very, very personal style. And every time he cuts a promo, it feels like he's spilling his guts out. Nick Aldis has his style. Eli Drake has his own, and Pope is able to carve himself out his own spot there. He's really, really good at what he does. And yes, Kristen, I know you like it when I laugh with myself. That I'm my best audience. What can I tell you? So Pope is he puts over his lifestyle, and then the bouncers come up to sort of back up Eddie Kingston, or so we thought. Because Pope, who is the mover and shaker, positioning himself to put guys over, lets it known that he's able to get beer money like that for just about anyone. And the bouncers blindside Eddie Kingston. It's a turn. They drag him into the ring and they beat him up. They got to him for beer. What a bunch of slobs. He sold out Eddie Kingston just for a couple of cans of ale. That's ridiculous. That's right. I call them slobs. Rude. Whatever. I call them slobs. So Eddie Kingston, once again without friends. Homicide is gone. Now the bouncers are gone, are on Pope's side now. I don't know what's going on. We get a little segment again with Sean Mooney. Now this is another segment that Sean Mooney has. So if his previous segment is called Show Me the Mooney, this one here could be Mooney Talks. Like there could be a series of segments starring Sean Mooney with different titles if we wanted. But basically, he announces that next week on Powerrr, we are going to get Zicky Dice versus Ricky Starks for the TV title. We're going to get Eli Drake and James Storm against the Bouncers for the NWA Tag Team Championships. You see what they align themselves with Pope, and that's what happens. And then he announces that for the Crockett Cup, the first team to enter the Crockett Cup is going to be the Rock and Roll Express, which I am very torn on. Don't get me wrong, I like the Rock and Roll Express, but a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, when I saw Gibson trying to get back up to his feet, being unable to just lift himself without hanging onto the ropes or hanging onto Ricky Morton, I don't need to see broken down Robert Gibson anymore. I really don't. That just breaks my heart. But anyway, let's move on to our main event. The main event, the moment that we were all waiting for. NWA Women's title on the line. Thunder Rosa, the champion, against Melina. Commentary puts over that, they're all in the same, faction. They're all in a group, right? So, this might put some extra strain in their little group. He's like, oh, you think so? So, Melina and Thunder Rosa, the bell rings and they're in the ring and start talking to each other. And it kind of feels like Melina's like, you should be laying down for me. And Thunder Rosa's like, nah, man, we're going to fight. And Melina says, you know, you're being disrespectful. But Rosa shoves her down. It's like, no, man, let's do this. Let's fight. So Melina rolls out of the ring. And I'm like, good old-fashioned stall. Let's give us a 7-minute Larry Zbyszko-esque stall. Give us a Kenta style stall from Osaka a couple of weeks ago. But no, she hits the bricks. She lets herself be counted out. And she's walking up the ramp, the stands, I should say. Excuse me. Walking up to I guess just leave the arena, leaving through the fans. But Allison Kay comes from the top and sort of shoves her back down kind of thing towards the ring, decks her in the ring. But then Allison Kay turns around and she gets speared by Camille. And it was a nice spear too. I'm down with that. Good. Giving some life to the women's division. So, and then at the end, Thunder Rosa and Camille stare each other down. You have Marty Bell, who's with Melina. You have Allison Kay, who's being looked after by the Tasha Steelz and Ashley Vox. And you have the champ and Camille, who are there and just staring at each other. Camille looks like $1 million. My God, what a presence she has. I loved her ring gear too. Looked great. You know what I didn't like though? At the main event was a swerve. I did not care for it at all. Now, if you listen to the Mr. Warren Hayes show, if you listen to anything I do on Fightful, I will say it. I say it whenever WWE pulls that kind of stuff, where it's like where they announce a match, a big match, and they don't make it happen. They just pull it away. And they've been doing that recently, and I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of it. It was a cheap tactic that was done in the 90s over and over again, and eventually what it did is it creates resentment towards your fans because they're tuning in to watch a big match, something that wrestlers that they're looking forward to seeing, and it doesn't happen. Now, this is what I was looking forward to this. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, the reason why I was tuning in was to watch Thunder Rosa and Melina. I do a recap and results show, so I'm going to watch this every week regardless. However, I was excited to see this match. And you'll remember 2 weeks ago when I was talking about this match, I was like, I'm really excited to see what Melina's going to do. Thunder Rosa on top of that. She's one of the best wrestlers in the world right now. She's fantastic. She's a great choice as a champion. This I didn't care for. I really didn't like. And I really, really hope that NWA doesn't pull any more of this stuff like this. If they had wrestled a little bit, I wouldn't have had as much a problem with it as I do right now. There was nothing that happened in this angle tonight because ultimately it was a main event angle, and there's nothing that happened that could not have been settled after a match or by breaking up a match with a DQ, whatever. Or Melina walking off after wrestling for 5-6 minutes or something like that. And she's like, no, I'm done. This sucked. It sucks. I don't like having big matches get swerved. And I have lots of love for the NWA and what they're doing. And I'll stick by everything I've said so far, that they are really an alternative to WWE programming, to anything that's happening out there. But this is not part of the alternative. This is old school booking that doesn't work in our current era because we're all smarter about stuff now. And Melina's not getting heat for walking out of the match. The promotion is getting heat for keeping us from watching the advertised main event. We're smarter than we once were. Maybe in 1985 this would have been fine. But not in this modern age. you don't cut it. You just can't cut it. Give us a snippet of a match. Give us something. Because there was nothing in this angle, in the post-match angle, that could not have been settled after the match, or even without the match. There's nothing that happened here that required the match. And this is true old school thinking. Oh, you leave the heel cowers away from the match. That's great heel heat. Sure, but not in a main event position where you have people tuning in to watch your main event and then it doesn't happen. That I can't stand. And it's a pet peeve, and it's an other era of booking which drove people nuts and got people to turn against the product. So I'm telling you right now, NWA, don't make this happen. That's it. That was tonight's episode of NWA Powerrr. So essentially, yeah, there's a lot of talk tonight. Fun angles, but this was not a wrestling heavy show at all. But there were some fun angles, fun moments. I thought that the opening angle with Tim Storm was really good. Thought the Aaron Stevens Trevor Murdoch stuff was good. Nick Aldis is always good, and the Marty Scurll stuff is fun. Thought the Eddie Kingston surprise turn was good. And I mean, like I said, you know, the post women's match stuff, the angle is okay. Just didn't need to advertise it as something it wasn't. That's all I'm saying. But I'll tell you something that I can advertise that you can count on this Thursday, right back here, youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes for the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Hey, here's a surprise. I'm going to have Jay from the Midcard Maniacs YouTube channel is going to join me. If you haven't had a chance to get a load of what those guys do, they do lots of wrestling related videos, contents, lists, career breakdowns, biographies, I guess you'd call them to a certain extent. And they do it really, really well. They do some fantastic stuff, and Jay is going to join me, and we're going to talk about what they do. We're going to talk about wrestling. It'll give you a good opportunity to discover them and the passion that they have for the pro graps. So that'll be fun. Thursday, 9 p.m. right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. And then, of course, on all podcast applications and so on and so forth. I, of course, will be in the meantime on Wednesday night on Fightful for the Wednesday Night Wars podcast with Sean and Alex. And that's always a good time. So there you go. We're going to wrap this one up. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. Thank you, everyone, for joining me, for watching, for listening. It was fun to have you. We'll see you next time.